Welcome to a journey through InsightCloud. What we're going to do today over the next couple of hours is give you a bit of an introduction into what we're about, our InsightCloud tool. So by way of introduction, I'm Mark. I look after the e-commerce and our cloud business for Insight across EMEA. Ash, working with me, is our business manager for cloud, and it will be Ash who takes you through a demonstration of the tool itself. So I'll be handing over to Ash shortly. So just before I hand over to Ash, I thought it a good idea to give you a sense, as we call it, of our direction of travel. And this is my only slide, and then I'll hand over to the demo. As you could probably imagine, Insight very close to our partner community, the vendors that are trying to immerse themselves into the cloud, and equally you as the customer community. So the challenge we had, I guess, was to try and serve what we believe were the three areas in which cloud, from an Insight perspective, could help influence you. Across the top, we talk about our converts. And these are the customers who have made, if you like, that transition already. They are researched and in a position from an infrastructure and probably financial perspective to take an area or their whole business into the cloud. So the involvement of Insight really is just to support that process. There's not necessarily any hand-holding. They're the converts. They were the first people to go into the cloud, and FareShare Music are a good example of that you'll hear from later. Across the bottom is a more handheld approach. This is the role that Insight began to play when it entered into the cloud. And this is our service team, run by Steve Brow. There's the lounge downstairs. The whole team are here today, where we would expect more selected managed services, tactical decisions around cloud deployment, and outsourcing. So what Insight would provide there would be that hand-holding process. Why is it right for your business? When would it be right for your business? And those steps we've been kind of going at for a couple of years now, starting to take those progressive steps with the customers. What we're about today is this piece through the middle, this idea that we can create the InsightCloud portal, and with that, enable us to put the types of services and solutions that are right today for the business that we believe, from the experience with up and down, so to speak, that customers are looking for in the cloud. So services like email, secure services like filtering, office solutions, backup, exchange, the types of solutions running business today that can wholly or partly be absorbed into the cloud. So our challenge was to take this, but keep that balance of the way Insight operate, make it as easy as possible, and build something that you can transact with, you can use, but provides all these services in an easiest way as possible. Almost the equivalent of just contacting your account manager or procuring online. So where we got to was this idea of our InsightCloud. This is built up of three areas. So first we have the solutions. No surprise, we have relationships with all the major vendors across the world. So we've worked carefully to ensure that the mix of vendors is correct. There's an awful lot today in the reputation of a brand when you move to the cloud. So no surprise, the partners that we engage with and the partners we're going to introduce today are the partners having success in the cloud today, which gives an extra comfort to us and in turn you as customers. We then have the portal itself, which Ash is going to talk through. This is almost a structured catalog. You log in, you choose the services you want, won't steal any thunder, and you procure and provision those out to your users. Simple, easy to use. Again, based on the tools that we've just seen from our vendors. And then finally, it's the customer community. And the point Ash will get to here is how easy and how flexible this is. From people remotely, from people within a closed environment, encapsulating the public and the private cloud. And this is exactly what we're going to show to you today. So finally, I guess, what is it? It's a portal. It's a procurement portal for all the cloud services that we have today, and we will start to roll out. You're up and running in minutes. You provision everything in one place. You add and remove the services as you require, be it more services to you as a company or the reduction or increase of services to your end users. And the thing we liked behind the scenes is that as you add and increase, for any of you using some of these cloud-based services now, you're often taken to an individual portal where you then have to configure and a second portal for another range of services. We put everything into one monthly bill, so it all provisions nicely. So the point of that was really just to set the scene. I know some people have seen this. We've got some customers in here today. But I really wanted to just, in a couple of minutes, give you the opportunity to set the scene, really. Now I'm going to hand over to Ash, who's going to create this scenario I spoke of and just walk us through a demonstration of how everything I've talked about here fits together.
Thank you for that, Mark. Appreciate that. Welcome, ladies and gents. So, for the purpose of this demonstration today, we're going to run through a scenario. The scenario being, I am your IT manager for the day. You are my new employee. Your name? Mr. William Jones. Great name. So we all face common challenges in terms of how we can set up new users and what those challenges are. We picked a few out. New employee, Mr. William Jones. We don't have very much IT support in-house. It takes us a very long time to set new users up. We cannot commit to capital expenditure. Costs are important to us. And based on where Mr. Jones lives, it's very important for him to be able to access the service from his home. So in this particular case, he lives in Wales, and quite difficult to get into our London office just to simply have his account set up and services added. So what is the answer to those challenges? Well, we feel that's InsightCloud. How? What I'll do now is run through what we are actually going to do. So, first of all, we need to create Mr. Jones an account. So that's exactly what I'm going to do for you today. We're going to add a hosted desktop for yourselves with some Office. Create an email account so we can communicate. We're going to set William up with some Sharepoint so he can share files, and that in turn adds to some file share. And then, once we've provisioned those services, we're going to make sure they actually work. So we're going to log in as William. We're going to make sure that William can configure his own email. We can build a virtual machine so that we can run any kind of servers that we like. And I'm going to show you how we can manage all of those resources. And that's quite a lot, to be honest. So I'm going to be kind and let you go for some lunch after that, because there's going to be quite a lot to take in. To start into our demonstration, what we have here is our website. It is the list of products and services that we have available today. And our goal is to grow these, and throughout the day you will understand how we're going to grow these and with whom we're going to grow these services with in terms of partners. So going quick left to right at the top there, we've got hosted desktop, email services, servers on demand, which is a virtual machine piece, which we're very proud of, and I'll demonstrate a bit later on. Data backup, powered by EMC, business solution that contain items like Sharepoint, and disaster recovery, which is our CA D2D ARCSA range of products that are all hosted by us. So what I'm going to do is just go through and log in. The important part that I want to focus on today is the new user section, the user management section. So we're going to create Mr. Jones's account. And to do that, just click on New User. It brings us a very simplified form. Now, that's quite, a relation of this. We keep things simple. Simple is better, simple is easy. Simple means that it's quick. So you're prompted for some information. I'm just going to put in Mr. Jones's details. I'm not going to put anything out of the ordinary. His name, give him a username. And most things that we can, that auto-populate, we do to make your life easier. But again, it's entirely up to you how you want to enter the details here. We can add in some additional properties. Now, it is entirely up to you how you want to add and remove data on here. We can also synchronize this to our Active Directory. We're able to sync up to 2,500 users in 15 minutes. And you can bulk upload in multiple other ways. So you don't have to create users one by one. You can add in as many as you like and instantly all sync it in. We're just going to set a password for Mr. Jones, and we provide you with an indicator to show how strong your password is. Making sure it doesn't make mistakes. We can select some account settings. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm not going to change anything, keep it all default, but again, it's entirely up to you how you want to set this particular account up or any account. We've also created some templates. Now, these templates are designed so you don't have to keep creating the user and setting all the settings again and again. So you can predefine groups of users based on whatever the requirements are. We can also specify a specific email address if the one that we give you as william.jones is not what you're after. Again, all options, but not mandatory. Simply, we hit provisioning. At this point, I just want to highlight we have created the user. So that's step 1 of 2. It is as simple as that in terms of being able to create the user. Now, what you're seeing now is the services that we can then add as part of step 2 to Mr. Jones's account. Now, I've handpicked a selection of services based on the screen that you saw off our website. So in this particular case, a bit of desktop, some Exchange file sharing, and some SharePoint, based on what our challenges were earlier. So just to go through, I'm going to create a hosted desktop. Again, all very simple in terms of what we're required to do, all tick box based. I'm just going to select some services here, some Office, what else we got? Bit of projects and some Visio. Choose a language, and we can use any of the Microsoft language packs. So these are just 2 that we've picked, but we have a whole number option. The indicator lights there, which is amber to green, indicates that that service has actually been provisioned. So we have a very simple traffic light signaling system for our status. Red, amber, green. Red meaning that, you know, if something not quite happened, then we've got the chance to go back and do it again. Really not a big issue, but it gives you an indication. The amber is the communication that is occurring between the control panel and our data center to provision that particular item, and the green indicating it has occurred. So you can see how quick it was. For the rest of them, just repeating the process. So I'm going to add a bit of file sharing for Mr. Jones. We can select what sort of privileges he's got. In this case, I'm just going to keep it full. Provisioning again. Watch out for the signals. Amber going over to green. Hosted Exchange to make sure that Mr. Jones can communicate. We've got a number of mailbox options. I'm going to start off small because we don't bill you for anything you don't use, so you might as well start off small, and when you need to grow, you can grow with it. So you don't always have to go all in straight away. We've got some advanced options specific for the email account based on what your requirements are. Just moving down. So we've got service settings. Again, we can set some aliases as per your requirements. Simply follow the process of hitting provision to start this email account initiating. And again, indicator lights always telling us where we are within the process. We don't always have to wait for that to start and stop. We can always continue going until that. But for the purpose of this, I'm going to take it step by step. SharePoint is the last thing. Again, options, all very repetitive. This is a pattern of that system, but quite frankly, it's as simple as we can get it, and we like it because it makes it very easy for your users or your administrators to pick it up very quickly, very easily. Not very much training involved. Again, provisioning, indicator lights, and as soon as that's gone green, what we've done here is completed pretty much all of our challenges, but with the exception of logging in and verifying it. Just to recap how quick that was in terms of provisioning those services based on how long it may take you currently or via other methods. So we've added in the desktop, the file sharing, the Exchange, the SharePoint in a matter of short space of time. To verify, well, I'm just going to log in. We do that by, on your provisioning email that we send you, you get a link to this. So we access that link and enter in the credentials. The same password that we provided during the provisioning process. Now, at this point, the communication is occurring between the browser here and our data center, verifying what we've entered in as the credentials for Mr. Jones, making sure the services that we've added in are being added into the Active Directory, all the synchronization that's occurring, and any moment now, we're going to be able to view the desktop. There we go. It's great when things work. It's very simple desktop. We can make it look how we want it to look. We've got the icons on the left, start bar on the bottom. Just to verify through of the services that we have, go to Office. And we can see there we have all of the Office applications available to us that we selected, including the Office projects as well as the Visio. We've also added in a couple of tools as default, a PDF reader, a sync tool. We can add further tools in here based on your requirements. Links to Mr. Jones's SharePoint account, webmail, and his internet account. Now, setting up his email. Just click next, and then I'm going to pause that for a second. Just pause there. Right. We all know, well, I hope we all know, but certainly from my perspective, how much of a pain it can be to set up an Outlook client based on whatever your email settings are. It never always usually works first time round, and it can be a real pain. So we've made things as simple as we can here. We just verify that it says yes, click next, make sure that the email address is in there. We click next again. We make sure we've got green ticks, the information's correct, and we can see we've successfully configured that account. So it's all pre-configured. Hitting finish. It's going to log into the account, similar to what you're used to these days, getting the email, the name and the initials that we can select, logging into the actual Outlook browser. Just going to zoom out there. Right. Because of the hard work that I've put myself through over the past few minutes, Mr. Jones is going to send me a lovely email saying thank you for my incredibly hard work, because it was a lot of effort. Just at this point, I'm going to highlight the fact that our hosted desktop is not just a standard hosted desktop. It allows you to map into local printers so you can print. So although it's all cloud-based, you can still print locally. Or we can set it up so that you can print to a machine based in your office somewhere. Really doesn't matter where it is. And the options available to us are really not too bad. You know, we can do what we want. I'm going to take you through an additional feature that we have. Now, we can also map into a number of different servers. So just going left to right up here. So the server on the left there is my machine here. Or hard disk, I should say. Moving along, it's the machine out in our Greenwich data center. And then we've got our machine in Manchester office, as well as the machine, say, in our Paris office. So it really doesn't matter too much. All of which are, configurable and set up based on whatever your requirements are. I'm just going to log out there. So to log out, exit, and OK. And just to remind you here, being a hosted desktop, it really doesn't matter if you save your work or not. If you've got a document and it's halfway open, and you close down, the next time you go to it, regardless of what machine you're using, it's still going to be there in its entirety. So losing data is nigh on impossible. It's just taking you through our newest features of servers on demand. So I'm just going to go to services back in our control panel, click on virtual machines, and we've got here, again, very simple layout of our control panel for the virtual machines. We've got our servers. What I want to focus your attention on is the virtual resources. So we don't bill you for each server. We bill you for the resources you require. That way, it allows you to be flexible and only pay for what you need. That's better described if I demonstrate to you how we can set this up. So I'm just going to click New Virtual Machine. Again, similar to creating the new user, we give it a name. In this case, I'm just creating a file server, very simple, very quick. Give it a description. And then we've got some source templates. We've created some templates that allow yourself to be easy to decide what server you want. In this case, I'm just going to select a blank disk because it's just a file server. We can then choose what a configuration of this server is going to be. Again, entirely up to you for the purpose of this. I'm just going to pick 2 because it's simple in the middle. We've got options on how you can select your RAM, be it a wiggly bar, very technical term there, or we can select type it in ourselves. I'm just going to start off with quite a small amount of memory because, remember, we can grow as we need to grow. We don't need to start off with a big server. Minimal amount of disk space, and when we hit 40 gigabytes, then I know, or approach 40 gigabytes, then we can increase it then. But we don't need to now because we don't need to pay for it. Network adapters, if you wanted to network this into anything, we provide you with the options to do so here. And very simply, hit the provisioning button. I don't want to start the machine just yet, as you can see from that box there. But I will demonstrate that to you in a bit. But the reason why I don't want to show you that is the resources. Again, indicator lights, just while we're waiting for that, if you could keep one eye on it and just so it notice when it does go green, because it will be a little bit longer than creating a user. But the resources, you've noticed, has not increased apart from the disk space. That's because we haven't switched the server on yet. So we've allocated the storage, but we've not switched it on, so we don't bill you for the other aspects, because technically you're not utilizing those resources. One I created earlier is the Windows machine. And just to go through what options we have within that, oh, actually, just stop there. We've got the file server's gone green, which means that, quite frankly, that machine is ready to start. So that was about 30 seconds to provision the server. Depending on what you do, it could be a little bit longer, 2 minutes maybe, but certainly not days or not hours. So, just going through, continuing what the one that we made earlier, the Blue Peter scenario. Windows machine, just going through the options here, just trying to get my zoom correct. We've got all of the information about the server, the name, which we can't change because of networking purposes, but we can change the description. We can change through the template if we wanted to. The hardware, got options in through here. Any changes, you just need to deprovision the server and then reprovision it, just switch it off and on, basically. We can change the disk space if we need to as well. We've got some additional options on the networking. We can see the summary of the server, the networking information for it, screenshot to make sure it's working, when we made it. We can view checkpoints for any certain checkpoints that we may have created for that particular server, and we can view any performance indicators for it as well. Now, just reminding you again to take note of what the current resources are. Not too important to read, but more important about the green aspects of it. I'm just going to start that server now, and just keep an eye on the resources on the left-hand side. That will indicate when it's switched on and how we're using our resources. There we go. So we can see that now that server's activated, resources are activated, we can still see how much we have left to use. And when you're starting to fill up those green bars, well, we can go and purchase more resources, which we can do so from the bottom left. But to activate our server that we made earlier, simply click on the Connect box. It brings us a browser. You can use your own RDP client if you wish. It's not entirely up to you, but in this case, we've provided an online version. Enter in the credentials and hit Connect. And then we get our login screen. So what we have here, essentially, is access to our server. Very quick, very simple, very easy, remote from anywhere. Now, just bringing you back to what we had before. We had our challenges. Challenges for Mr. Jones, challenges mainly for me as the IT manager for yourselves, on how we accomplish those challenges and overcome them. Very quick, very easy, but also being able to allow us to grow as we grow. So we created an account for William. We added his hosted desktop with some Office. We created an email account for him so he could communicate. Set up the Sharepoint. We set up his file share. We logged into his account. We allowed him to configure his own email, demonstrated to you how we can build our own virtual machine, and how we can manage our resources based on our requirements, all in a very short space of time. And we can add more services to the list that you saw. It really is entirely up to you as to how we make this work for your organization. Now, I'm just going to hand it back over to Mark.
What we tried to do there, in as short a time as possible, was introduce the portal. No surprise, visually, it's just about completion. It's a step-by-step process that, as you saw 3 or 4 times, is very identical. Ash focused on how easy it is to get up and running and the lack of training required. And no surprise, we offer a host of webinars, now running weekly, where those services can just be introduced a little bit more and focused on the setting up of an account, the creation of services, and the provisioning, particular, of the server. Thank you so far.